It's my pleasure now to introduce another book author. Emmet and I kept in touch, I think, on social media is where we first connected, and I had the pleasure of going out to Drumcondra one night to a pub for what I thought was a small chat about what Marxism is all about, and I think we sat there for how many hours? I was red-pilled about Marxism, and I said we need to get this out to our conference when we have this. So I invited Emmet to come and speak. He's written The Red Pandemic, the Global Marxist Cult, and he's going to give an overview of what Marxism is, but also how it can brainwash children, because as you saw from Eugene's presentation, that is what's coming in the schools. So welcome, Emmet. And you don't have your books today, they've sold out, but you have some on order, is that right?
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Thanks to Jan and the Natural Women's Council for making today possible, despite the adversity and changing the venues due to the Marxist brats. So the reason we're all here, to cut straight to the chase, is that we have a serious problem in Irish society with brainwashing. It's activist brainwashing, and it goes by many different labels. Progressivism, liberalism, etc. But really what it is Marxist activism. This group, I don't know what, it could be in the hundreds of thousands, maybe a million, maybe more, we don't really know, are responsible for driving all these crazy changes, including what's in the education system. To define what Marxism is, it's an internationalist revolutionary movement that seeks to destroy society or transform society to rebuild it as a Marxist one. They have this notion that oppression is bad, it's suffering, and that they can somehow remove this suffering from society. But we all know as individuals in this room that suffering is a part of life. Trying to remove it is artificial and is fantasy, but that doesn't stop them from trying. Of course, they're not known for being attached to reality. Radical sex ed, trans ideology, etc., drag queen story time, they're all just symptoms of the problem. Marxism is much bigger than that. You actually see in the cover of the book, if you look at the different symbols, mass immigration with the boat people, the trans symbol, you see the plate with the leaf on it on the left, that's veganism, the attack on the traditional family, you name it, the UN, the EU, the whole COVID fiasco, and the climate change movement down the bottom right. The upside down cross is anti-Christianity. Marxism is responsible for all of that. So my kind of strategy is, let's not go after one particular issue, but go after the root cause of all this, which is the ideology and the brainwashing itself. Many of those sub-agendas or initiatives that I talk about are based on the class struggle concept within Marxism, which is very old. It goes back to the 1800s and even beyond that. Originally it was about the rich versus the poor, or the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, as outlined in the Communist Manifesto of 1848. The idea that one group is controlling the other group and making them suffer for their own ends. And feminism is quite old too, the idea that men are oppressing women, etc. In the 20th century it evolved, as Eugene pointed out as well, with postmodernism and critical theory, is the class struggle concept being applied to other things, even crazy things, like now they're trying to convince us that we are oppressing the planet. So the planet has feelings and needs a cuddle, that kind of thing. So this oppression-free society is just a fantasy, and they use these terms like compassion, care, solidarity, equality, diversity, equity as well, which is the enforcement of artificial equality, and they're all a type of emotional manipulation. They appeal to that kind of sense we all have to look after other people, which is natural, and that's a good thing about life. But Marxism co-opts that and uses it to further its own agenda of revolution. Marxism doesn't care about, you know, the women or the foreigners or the animals or black people with BLM. It's all fake. It just uses groups as useful idiots to push forward the revolution and achieve total control. It appeals to the ego, and this is particularly important with kids. Young people tend to want to fit in. And, you know, by nature, they're immature. We were all there once. I'm still there. And, you know, it's a normal part of life to be that way. But when you hear that you're special and you're here to save the world, that's a very powerful message for young people, young minds to hear. It can be very addictive and it's very contagious. And that's why I describe it as a cult, which Sean pointed out earlier, that they make each other feel good, that they're special and they're in this together. And what's the other attributes of a cult? That they have the truth and no one else quite gets it. So they're going to take us towards revolution. And if you oppose them and say that they're wrong and look at all the damage you're causing, can you not see trans ideology is crazy? Can you not see the economic problems climate change causes, etc.? Can you not see the damage that veganism does to people's health, etc.? They will say, you don't quite understand it, you don't get it, you're not part of the revolution. So there's gargantuan egos involved here. It also gives people a sense of purpose in life, and we all need that. That's not a bad thing at all. Marxism co-opts that. I'm talking about the thing of appealing to people's emotions. Canaltus was mentioned earlier, and which is the Irish word, the Gaelic word for kindness, which is typical Marxist virtue signalling. They suck you in with a nice veneer. It has this kind of image of being something pleasant, but in reality it's just a wolf in sheep's clothing, which is typical how Marxism works. It markets itself as being something benevolent, whereas really malevolent in nature, and it's very, very good at that. The first coat of arms of the Fabian Society, which is a subversive Marxist group established in 1884 and had one of our own, George Bernard Shaw, as one of the key figures eventually. He designed the first coat of arms, which was a wolf in sheep's clothing. So that really sums up what Marxism is all about. The effect on education is catastrophic. And I think it's been mentioned a few times. I'm sure you've all noticed the term global citizens, right? If everyone was common knowledge what Marxism was, or they would immediately understand that that's Marxist talk. The idea that it's all one world, there shouldn't be borders, countries shouldn't exist, there's no differences between races and culture. As you've seen, there's no differences between gender and male and female, according to the Marxists, because, one is going to be the oppressor. So again, back to what we said, it's all about the idea of somebody's being oppressed and they need to be saved by these wonderful cult members, of course. Comrades, the education system now is being organised to just generate more activists. The whole education system has been controlled, has been mentioned a few times tonight, to turn young people into activists to further the revolution. They can be a climate change activist, they can be a feminist, they can be a trans activist, they can want to help the poor or whatever it is. They're constantly being offered these different options, but whichever part of it you join, you still help the revolution overall. And this goes back to the idea of the socialist man, which goes right back into history, the history of communism or Marxism, is the idea that, we can have this great utopia if only all of you would change and join the revolution. So there's something wrong with you if you're not a Marxist, pretty much. And utopia is just around the corner. It also renders the education system useless, because I put it in the book, there's a section in the book where I slag off the various courses in the universities. You can do like a 3 or 4 year climate course, or a social justice course, or a women's studies course. Society is not run on people with those educations. We need engineers, we need people who are good at physics and so on, who have practical skills. If you spend 4 or 5 years in the university learning that garbage, not only are you helping Marxism, which destroys society, but you're totally useless and you don't provide anything of value. So that's what's going to happen to the kids when they get to the university level. They're going to be taught this nonsense. Also, victim culture is very, very bad for people. The idea that someone else is to blame for your issues or your suffering, this is very toxic for the human mind. We all have to take responsibility for ourselves and mature. And it's so easy to be told that someone else is the problem and you don't have to grow up. Diversity, equity and inclusion, DEI, among the many toxic effects it has, is this kind of victim culture and this idea that we all need to be pampered. It's like everybody gets a medal just for being in the race, sort of thing. When I was about 10, I had a tantrum once. I was in the soccer tournament and I didn't win it. I had a tantrum and my dad made sure I got a medal. That's not very good. That's why I was spoiled for years. Still am. So also destruction of merit. I think Eugene mentioned it earlier with DEI. If you're trying to make everybody equal, Marxism denies hierarchies, because obviously someone's in a higher position, and if someone's in a lower position, they're going to suffer. So in order to fix this, in their wisdom, they want to remove the hierarchy. And that's where the idea of equality comes from. They're trying to make everybody equal, so no one has to come second. And this is terrible, because This room, the technology in this room, the lights, the building, the internet connection, electricity, lights, the cameras, everything in this room is because of excellence, because somebody came along and said, I have an idea about making the human voice louder in a room, and they come up with the idea of a microphone. And they didn't get it right the first time. Thomas Edison, I think, had a few thousand cracks at the light bulb before he got it right and it stopped exploding. That's called excellence. DEI and so on is very, very toxic for the minds of young people because it makes them think that everything's great just the way it is and you don't need to improve, which is absolute nonsense. Marxism also divides. That's part of its modus operandi. It causes division, even within families. And you all know what I'm talking about, don't you? The state wants to become the parent, which has been mentioned. The first line of defense against Marxist indoctrination is the parent. That's why they're trying to remove parents systematically from the equation to get you out of the way so they can brainwash more kids and make them part of the revolution. That's where the constitutional changes come in and so on. So just to finish off, then, the main point here really is how do we fix this? None of this is going to stop unless everybody invests some time and energy in understanding Marxism. That's the key, because how can you fight the enemy and deal with this problem if people are kind of always quite kind of off the mark and not getting it? So we should understand the ideology, develop opposition to it. Even a bit of hatred isn't a bad thing. You have the right to hate this thing. Discriminate against it, anyone who's brainwashed, and actively deny them access to young people's minds. That's the way we stop this thing. Every child or person who is galvanized against this ideology is a life saved, because it's a waste of time, a waste of a life to become Marxist activists. So it's my dream that we get a handle on this situation ASAP. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you.